Hello, and welcome to the Chengdu Living podcast. My name is Charlie, and I'm joined by a guest today named Ryan. Say what's up.
This is Ryan.
Today we're going to be talking about a music video which everybody is talking about over the last 2 weeks or so, and this is a song by a Chinese rapper named Fat Shady, which is called Gua Laowai.
Yeah, yeah. Gua Laowai, Gua Laowai, 好多 Gua Laowai, Gua Laowai, Gua Laowai, 好多 Gua Laowai, Gua Laowai, Gua Laowai, 好多 Gua Laowai, 抛开 Gua Laowai, 抛开 Gua Lao, 抛开.
And the song specifically targets the expat community in China, more specifically in Chengdu. And in this podcast, we'll be discussing the events surrounding the release of this song. It's been a really fascinating series of events over the last couple weeks, seeing the reaction to the song. There's been so much debate and discussion, and it has really crossed all across China. Everywhere that I've seen, people are discussing issues online. A lot of people have taken note of this song in particular. And for those who've been in Chengdu for a long time or active in the music scene here, Fat Shady has been a pretty notorious music character for quite a long time. So there is some context to him recording this song and releasing this. And I know him personally. I've known him for a long time, although I haven't spoken in a long time. But I'll talk a little bit about what I know about him as a character, and also just a little bit more about Chinese rap in general, and how hip hop in China works and how morality might be interpreted, and so on. But what led us to this discussion today was that Ryan played an instrumental role in spreading this song to other people, right?
So this song and MC Shady, Fat Shady, started off as a Chengdu thing, getting forward around Chengdu because of some events that happened here, and he was rapping in response to those events. But the whole song is in Sichuanese, which is different than Mandarin, and for a lot of people, very hard to understand. So I sat down one morning and just took the time to translate it to English and then upload it up on YouTube. And once these lyrics were online and people saw what he was really saying, I think that's when it really blew up. And I saw articles in all kinds of publications. It blew up on Reddit. And on the YouTube comment section, there was a pretty intense flame war. I actually turned the comments off for a while, but some are interesting, some are really dirty and hateful. And I think this song just touches on a lot of issues.
Were they anti-foreigner hateful or anti-Chinese hateful?
Both.
Okay,
Both.
Right. Yeah, something like this is just a general catalyst for hate on all sides. And there certainly has been hate on both sides here. A lot of people have been criticizing Shady, understandably. And a lot of Chinese people have been criticizing foreigners as well, kind of vouching for a lot of the things which Shady says in the song. So in general, it's been kind of a tinderbox as far as bringing out the worst of these both sides.
Yeah. And I think that people outside of the situation, maybe people who see it from other countries or even outside Chengdu, don't understand the context with which this song was written in.
Absolutely. That's one thing that really kind of concerns me most about this. I feel that someone who's uninitiated to, Fat Shady or to the culture of hip hop, or how this stuff works in China, might read these lyrics and kind of get the wrong impression, and feel like foreigners are attacked when we're walking down the street, or we live in a hostile, dangerous environment, or all these other things which the lyrics of this song in particular might suggest, but are not really true at all.
And actually, I think that the misunderstanding can go both ways, that there are foreigners who misunderstand that this song is in response to some misbehavior by foreigners. And there are also Chinese who don't understand the nuance of the message and might just read this completely as a xenophobic message that they're on board with.
Right. So let's start with how this started. So there was an event which led to this song being recorded, and this song was recorded and written inspired by a very specific event. Tell us about that.
Okay, well, I think we should start with generally the situation that foreigners enjoy here in China is that people are quite nice, hospitable. Being foreign here gives you a lot of opportunities and some privilege. And sometimes people take that a bit too far, especially when alcohol is involved. So there was one big event which involved two people outside of Jiuyanqiao, which is a bar street by a river here, where a foreign man, I believe he was Spanish, started fornicating with a Chinese girl right outside. And people gathered around and they took video of it. And you could hear them yell all kinds of comments.
Really?
Some are yelling, "Get out of here."
Really?
Others are yelling, "加油," which is like, give it to her.
Yeah.
And it went viral, of course.
It went super viral. I couldn't believe this. So the way I heard about this was my girlfriend told me, she's like, hey, there's this video of this foreigner having sex outside of Joyanchao. She's like, did you see it? I was like, no, I didn't see it. And she was like, oh, I got to show it to you. And she's like, oh, it's probably been taken down by now. And I'm like, oh, yeah, it sounds like the type of thing that would be taken down because the internet in China is heavily policed.
So you didn't see it?
No, she pulls the video up. It's right there. And I'm like, good Lord, this is like a porn video. This
really
is like,
pornographic.
Yeah, like super pornographic. I'm like, wow, I can't believe, first of all, that they would think that this is a good idea with this audience. Like, you're obviously going to get deported and the girl's going to get arrested. It seemed like completely inevitable. And also that this video is remaining online. How have the censors not removed this by now? I'm just shocked at the circumstances surrounding this event. So what happened then?
Well, I wanted to throw in a few details about the video.
Yeah, please do.
It's pretty funny. The guy and the girl obviously both knew they were being watched. At one point, he pulls out his phone and turns on the flashlight so he can light the situation up so people can see it better.
Who's filming this, by the way? This is a bystander?
Oh, yeah, bystanders. Just I'm sure there are several people in the crowd filming it.
Right, so he illuminates it with his phone to create better lighting situation.
Right. And after it's all done, I think he tries to go his own way. And the girl makes a big scene and starts threatening to kill herself by throwing herself in the river. I guess because the guy left her. And the crowd capture this guy and bring him back. And they make him take her home, which I guess is the chivalrous thing to do in this situation. I don't know.
Sure, be a gentleman after you've done this. So I noticed she had like blood on her wrist. She tried to cut her wrists as well.
Oh yeah, maybe she was cutting her wrists. There was obviously everyone was drunk, so
right.
The whole thing was a big mess.
There are like multiple angles. There are different scenes. There are like different parts of it. I was just shocked at how. I mean, what was this guy thinking? I mean, the gall of this is like really pretty impressive. I mean, if this guy knew what he was doing and he was saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm just gonna like get my rocks off and then just like leave China," then like. Well, you got what you want. You know, I mean, it's like, from what I understand, there were no real serious repercussions for the guy. I mean, he got deported, right?
Yeah. They
so
found him and deported him in like 2 days.
Sure. No, yeah. I can imagine, like, it's not going to be hard to find him after his, like, you can see his face clearly.
And I think the reaction online was mixed. There was a lot of people who felt disrespected by this guy, locals who felt that all the blame was to be on him. There are others who blame the girl too. I mean, it takes two people to participate.
You know, yeah, this whole situation and this rap song, which has been authored in a result of this event, you know, what about the girl? How is the girl not equally culpable, if not even more culpable? Because you would expect any drunk guy inside a bar to be potentially susceptible to that kind of situation. Because guys are guys. You know, we're not like thinking very clearly inside a bar at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're drunk and there's attractive women around. What I'm shocked by is that the woman would think that this is a good idea because, in my opinion, the real heavy consequences fall on her. She is Chinese. This is China. She's the one who's going to be facing the music. For her whole life, she's probably going to be known for this. All of her family, all of her friends, they have likely all encountered this. Everyone knows what's going on, and she probably has nowhere to hide.
Yeah, I remember the next day she was trying to take a Didi, which is like a Uber here, and the Didi driver pulled out his phone and interviewed her. And she said that she did it as revenge to her recently divorced husband.
Wow.
So he really got what was coming to him.
Man, I really feel like she's just hurting herself a lot more than her ex-husband. Maybe this just confirmed for the ex-husband, like, thank you for validating my decision to break up.
But so this video and this event is one event in what's maybe a big pool of maybe foreigners being a little bit privileged here in China and enjoying the benefits of living here.
For sure. Yeah, this is a particularly dramatic example. But in general, yeah, you know, white privilege, you could call it. I mean, this privilege is certainly focused more upon people of Caucasian backgrounds than those who are darker skinned. And China is a little bit racist in some ways. So certainly foreigners from Western countries in particular are entitled to do a lot of things that others are not, you know, whether it's fair or not. That is the situation in China. And this song touches upon that privilege And, maybe it's not totally illegitimate to point out a lot of these things. Some of the reaction which I've seen to the song is that, hey, a lot of the things in the song are true. And that is true.
Yeah, maybe we could pick apart some of the lyrics and talk about the realities on the ground with those lyrics.
Yeah, I've got the lyrics right here. We'll definitely do that. Before we do that, though, tell me a little bit about how we went from this viral video event to you discovering the song.
Oh, okay. It's just my personal story of how I found this song.
Yeah, like what was the time period between these two events, and how did it come onto your radar?
Okay, so the viral video, and you mean the guy and the girl?
Yes.
Yeah. So that happened probably a month ago, right? About 4 weeks ago, and then I actually went out of town for 2 weeks. I went to Thailand, and when I got back to China, it was probably just coincidence, but the Didi driver was really rude and unwelcoming to me. And I was like, oh, I feel like unwelcome here. And then I went home and I got on the internet, and this song was blowing up. So it was the first time I sat down. So I just got back to China. My reception was not great. And then I see this song that's just like stupid foreigners, fuck off, stupid foreigners.
But when you saw it was just in Chinese with no English, right? Yeah,
it was just in Chinese, and I could understand. But you can understand. He says "stupid foreigner" over and over and over again in the local dialect.
Right.
Yeah. So the next morning, I woke up and everybody was talking about it on WeChat, and but I don't think there was an English version out yet.
Right.
Everyone was just kind of speculating because it's a real thick accent, and we could only understand bits and pieces. So I sat down, I found the Chinese lyrics on Baidu, and then I just sat down and translated it. There are a few lines that I needed help with, so I got help from a local. And as I translated the song, the nuance of what he was saying became apparent to me, both in that he was not including all foreigners and just how hateful and disrespectful he was being with his lyrics.
Right.
So I uploaded the YouTube, and I think I posted it on Reddit.
So you just translate it yourself?
Yeah, just translated it myself with a little help.
Okay, right.
And I've subtitled it on the bottom of his video and put it up on YouTube, and just uploaded it so people can see what he was saying.
Yep.
And then I checked back a few days later, and it had just blown up. And once people saw what he was actually saying in the song, it got huge, and it got huge outside of China and outside of Chengdu.
Right.
Which is part of why we're doing this podcast, to try to explain the context of where this is coming from.
Right.
Because it seems really weird. Like if you try to reverse the situation and someone wrote a song in America called "Fuck Off Foreigners" or "Fuck Off Chinese," like that would never happen.
Yeah, people would lose their mind.
It would be great. So China's different, obviously.
Yeah.
And we're not justifying the song at all. And I think particularly I am going to cover why I really dislike this song. But I do think it's important that we understand the situation that the song was written in.
Right. My first take on this when I saw this song was, I've known Shady for a long time. So to give you a little bit of background, I've been a hip hop DJ for almost 15 years. I've got a lot of friends who are rappers in Chengdu. My best Chinese friend is a very well-known rapper named Cafe Hu, who's a great artist and great person. I strongly endorse him and recommend you check out his music. He used to be very good friends with Shady. And in this apartment, which we're recording this podcast in right now, Shady used to regularly come here to record music. Oh. He would do it in the second bedroom back there, which is a studio. And when he would come, this was probably 6-7 years ago, he looked like almost a different guy than he is now.
That's where he got the name Fat Shady from, right?
Well, he used to be fat. So that was one thing. Yeah. So basically, he idolized Eminem, right? So he's a big fan of Eminem. And, China is kind of, shall I say, very susceptible to idols, whether it's Mao Zedong or Eminem. It's like China is a country and a people which really look up to figures and idols, in a very literal way. So he was somewhat obsessed with Eminem, and Eminem, left an indelible mark on his rap style, his delivery, his lyrical content, everything. So when you hear Fat Shady rap, his cadence and his rhythm sounds a lot like Eminem. In some songs, identical to Eminem. So he named himself Fat Shady, right, in honor of Eminem, who's called Slim Shady. He got a portrait tattoo of Eminem on his forearm, and it's like a romantic looking portrait, right? On his forearm. It's large. It's maybe 6-7 inches long. So he's really into Eminem, and that's cool. He's making music, and he had a really big hit song maybe 5 years ago.
Oh, 老子明天不上班, right?
Exactly. And that song became a nationwide hit. And with that song, he kind of laid the foundations for Sichuan rap. And now there are some artists in Chengdu, like Higher Brothers is one, who are reaching an audience all around the world, a global audience. A global audience who can understand them, by the way. But that doesn't seem to be any kind of issue for them, finding fans abroad. But really, the foundations of this were laid by Fat Shady. And it was with that one song, which was the biggest piece. And Lao Zi Ming Tian Bu Shan Ban is about how Shady does not want to be a regular member of Chinese society. He doesn't agree with the Chinese customs, traditional Chinese way of life, filial piety and all these type of things. That's not what he's for, and he is against all the conventions in Chinese society, and he wants to oppose that through his music. And a lot of his music is about that. It's about rejecting the standards of Chinese society. And in some cases, a lot of these things are things which foreigners would agree with.
Yeah, and it's a very hip-hop message, very true to the source of hip-hop.
Right, so it's individualism, it's doing what you want to do, being your own person, fulfilling your own destiny, and so on. And this is really kind of, the Western idea also is one of individualism, especially Americanism. So this is kind of what he's into, and if you're familiar with Eminem's music, it's pretty morally objectionable. Eminem raps a lot about addiction. He raps a lot about murder. He frequently touches upon rape, often of his family members, like rape of his ex-wife and things like this, and his mother in particular, talks about murdering his mother and so on. So there's a lot of really boundary-pushing concepts in Eminem's lyrics. And I feel like maybe we didn't see a lot of that in Shady's prior material, but we certainly see that here. This is pushing a ton of buttons, and it's very intentionally pushing a ton of buttons, I think. And so I think with this song, he was really trying to get a lot of attention by kind of trampling on people's sensibilities. And he has done both those things. He's trampled on a lot of people's sensibilities, and he's gotten a huge amount of attention. And as I've seen this song spread, you mentioned that it's been shared on Reddit. I noticed that it's been shared on Reddit virtually every day for the last week by a different person who is seemingly discovering it for the first time.
Or they want those points.
Every day, there's a new outraged person who sees Gua Laowai, who has to share it, say, what the fuck, and have this kind of outrage shock and share that with other people. And it's understandable. And I think the song was created to elicit that effect. And so in that regard, I think it's been pretty successful. But let's talk about some of the lyrics specifically. So you want to read this? You translated this. So here, check this out, and you can maybe share some of the highlights.
So I won't read all of them, but they are available if you want. You can click the link, see the original video. But I'll just read the ones that I think are particularly interesting.
Yep.
So how about the opening verse? It's pretty accurate, actually. Foreigners come to China. They know that we got money and cute girls. Foreigners of all types. They'll do anything for money. The tall ones become models. And girls give it up to them freely. So that's verse 1.
Yeah, so let's if we can go verse by verse here, all that checks out. It's an exaggeration, but it's true. There's a lot of economic opportunity in China. A lot of foreigners are here for that. There's a lot of beautiful women in China. A lot of foreigners are here for that. A lot of tall people are models. That's a funny, cartoonish characterization, but that's not totally untrue.
Yeah, like you might not have been a model back home, but the one requirement here to be a model is you're 178 centimeters tall,
yeah,
and white.
Right. I mean, of the models which I've met here, they're not models they're not models. They're just like tall white people in China, basically. So, I mean, as far as we've gone here, I'm pretty much on board with most of that.
Yeah, and it's true also foreigners of all types, he mentions, because there's a lot of losers. There's a lot of really smart people that came to learn Chinese. There's a lot of people who, he mentions later, they weren't making it in their own countries. They came because they just didn't have good jobs.
That's a popular dig on foreigners, by the way, in China. You can't make it in your own country. Come to China.
Yeah, and then the final thing he says is girls give it up to them freely. That's a reality, I think.
That is perhaps the most direct reference to this event at Zhouyanqiao. And I think, the major event which has inspired all this is that one event. And it's funny that all the anger is directed at the Laowai guy and not the Chinese woman, who's not really mentioned once at all here. But certainly, if you're a white guy and you can't date effectively in China, just give up, because it does not get easier anywhere that I've been on Earth.
Okay, next verse.
Yeah.
And then in the verse, or the chorus, he just says, "Stupid foreigners, stupid foreigners." He throws in one caveat in the whole song. He says, "I respect my foreign friends," and I thought it was interesting that he used the only English word in the whole song is respect.
Wow.
Because maybe that goes two ways. His foreign friends will understand what respect means, and the other way is his Chinese fans might not understand this line
because it's in English.
So
that's an interesting point. So one of the people who we hoped would join us on this podcast is a friend, Eli, who's been instrumental in Chengdu Living for many years, is a rapper in Chengdu and also knows Fat Shady. And he made the point that I think, maybe he's not a racist person. Maybe Fat Shady's not a racist person. Maybe this is all just misinterpreted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe he's not. So I respect my foreign friends, but fuck off, stupid foreigners. And okay, so here the verse gets started.
Yep.
Today you're an English teacher. Tomorrow you're a young entrepreneur. What are you going to be the next day? You want to be something? Come wash daddy's car. In this translation, I use daddy to replace Lao Tzu,
right,
which is just kind of a very disrespectful way to refer to yourself.
Lao Tzu it's difficult to translate. I'm not sure if there's a direct translation for that. It's a little bit funny. It's a little bit jokey. It's certainly very colloquial and local.
Mm-hmm. And it just puts you over the listener. That's what it means. That's why I translate it as daddy. So you want to be something? Come wash daddy's car. I'll give you that red money. Come over and clean daddy's Timberland boots. So many stupid foreigners. Fuck off, stupid foreigners.
Wow. So that's he's just really, really sounds very hateful there. But starting at the beginning of that verse, he's talking about you start out as an English teacher, then you become an entrepreneur. That sounds like not a bad situation for someone to be in. You start out with a stable job, and then you become self-employed. I don't take much offense to that, and there's certainly a lot of truth to that as well. A lot of foreigners, I would say probably the vast majority, 90% or more of foreigners who come to China to work are English teachers.
Yeah. And
a lot of them eventually transition out of English teaching into something which is more in line with what they really want to do. And maybe in some of the best cases, they become entrepreneurs. One example was Mike from Mike's Pizza Kitchen. I'm pretty sure he taught English back in the day. Started his own pizza place, had a popular delivery business, and now runs an empire, like a highly successful #1 restaurant on TripAdvisor.
Mike's Pizza Empire, I call it.
Yeah, so there's a lot of truth to that as well, and that is not a total mischaracterization or a really mean thing to say about people come and be English. Today you're an English teacher, tomorrow you're an entrepreneur.
Next verse. So, some couldn't make it in their own country. So where are you going to go? You hear that Chinese people are hospitable. You're a loser in your own country, but you're taken seriously in China.
Yeah. Okay.
It really doesn't need any explaining, does it?
No, I don't think it does. This is nothing that anyone who's lived in China for a long time, I think, hasn't heard. A lot of expats in China say the same thing too. There are a lot of people, talk shit on YouTube or on Reddit and say foreigners in China aren't anything in their home country. They're just coming to waste time in China. There's some truth to that. There's all types of foreigners who come to China. There's a lot of derelict, lost people who come to China. I think that over the last couple of years, the numbers of those people have been dramatically reduced, have been significantly diminished by the difficulty of living in China now. Getting a visa and the cost of living rising, I think China becomes a less attractive destination for that type of person. So I do feel that the demographics of the average Laowai in China has been changing a lot, for the better over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's getting a lot harder to get a visa. And now it used to be you could just print out a fake degree and some fake qualifications and get any job. And now they're starting to check, because I think China had a problem with just slowly accumulating losers over the years. And
this would have been a great line. Why didn't Shady write this? The slow accumulation of Laowai losers.
And they've been making an effort to flush out the loser Laowai, Laowai meaning foreigner, and try to get some more high quality. Let's see.
What else we got? Anything else really offensive? Anything that's going to get me really outraged? Help you out with that.
So the last verse, he just takes a dig at, you might say, people who enable these foreigners. He says, whoever hangs out with stupid foreigners is a bad word, and girls that hang around them are bad words. So he's not just attacking the stupid foreigners anymore, but really anyone that would associate with them.
That's interesting, because from what I understand, he used to regularly, or still does regularly, hang out at Jellyfish. Where else? Beer Nest, Hakka Bar.
A lot of foreign bars and places where foreigners hang out.
Yes, foreign bars. Like, of the 10,000 bars in the city, these are like 3 of the most well-known foreign bars that you could possibly go to, which he regularly patronizes. Perhaps not like in the very recent history. Speaking of which, I saw a YouTube comment, which I'm sure you saw also.
Maybe the most interesting comment.
Right. So of all the comments, this one is the one which has been shared the most. What did that comment say?
Oh, you found it. I won't remember the exact words. Can you?
Yes. So the comment was a foreigner who was commenting on this video, and he said, I saw Fat Shady at Jellyfish. He was hitting on a Laowai's girlfriend. The Laowai told him to fuck off, and they got to a fight. He got his butt kicked, and now he's angry at foreigners, and that's why he wrote this song.
I cannot confirm or deny this comment, but it sounds plausible.
It sounds very plausible. To describe the music video, so obviously we'll link to the music video in the show notes, so check the video yourself. It is a very angry, heavily tattooed, short Chinese man who is yelling at the camera.
And all his friends are flipping the middle finger.
Right. So he's surrounded by middle fingers. He's surrounded by people which make him look like a midget. I don't know if that was intentional or he's a very short guy. And I would think that maybe, standing next to a bunch of huge guys would not, make him look like a really intimidating figure, which is obviously what he's going for. So since the time I've known him, he's pretty much tattooed his entire body. He's got tattoos on his face, on his neck. He's got tattoos on his head. He's tattooed everywhere, virtually everywhere. And aside from, the first one, which I'm aware of, was the Eminem portrait on his forearm. But he also has a Thug Life tattoo on his stomach, which is the exact same tattoo that Tupac Shakur had. So there's a lot of mimicry going on here. I think rather than, him being a racist anti-foreigner, he is kind of a foreigner wannabe who's maybe salty about the position that foreigners are put in, not through anything they did, but just through society putting them there. And, no foreigner really did that to create this situation. I think the biggest contributor may have been China closing itself off to the world for half a century through the Communist Party. And once those walls open up, people are really interested in interacting with people from outside the world. And that has created this kind of vacuum which foreigners have found themselves in.
And another detail I think from the video that's interesting is he walks down Jiuyanqiao, right?
Right.
So he's actually walking down the same place where the incident that we started this podcast talking about. He's walking down that bar street. And I think that's symbolic.
Yeah, I'm surprised that he didn't more specifically mention that actual event. And I feel like had he done that, he may have been able to stem a lot of the criticism which has resulted from this, because people read the lyrics or they listen to this song and they say, well, this is just unabashed racism. This is just a guy who hates all foreigners because of their skin color or because of their ethnicity or the country from which they come from. And that's true. It's not wrong to have that interpretation when you look at these lyrics. But what we know, which a lot of people don't know, is that there is a specific event which inspired this. And so it is a little curious that he wouldn't take the opportunity to make that a little bit more clear by kind of elucidating what happened at the event and how he feels about it, and, why this particular foreigner felt entitled to do something so reckless and lacking morals, but he didn't. It's just fuck foreigners, fuck foreigners, fuck foreigners, repeat that 10 times, and just, a couple clean my Timberland boots, which some of this stuff is just like, what?
Yeah. So kind of about the fallout of this song and what's happened since it came out. There was one foreign friend who was talking in a WeChat group about he was sitting in a restaurant and the owner of the restaurant thought it would be funny and he put this song on, right? So you're sitting there trying to eat your noodles or whatever, and the restaurant owner puts on "Stupid Foreigner, Stupid Foreigner," and I think this brings up a point, which is maybe Fat Shady, MC Shady's view on foreigners is very nuanced, and he discriminates between stupid foreigners and his good foreign friends, and But I don't think that all of the fans who like this song and are sharing it around China share that same nuance and understanding and distinction.
Right.
I think that's a big part of the problem here. It's just my personal opinion.
That's a good point.
That this is an anthem of hate and xenophobia towards foreigners.
If someone in America were to say, I'm against immigrants, and then if neo-Nazis pick that up and propagate that message, then it's interpreted in a different way.
Yeah, he's saying stupid foreigners, and his people who defend him say that, well, he only means the stupid foreigners. He doesn't mean the smart foreigners. But of course, the other way, the way that everyone will naturally interpret these lyrics are that all foreigners are stupid.
Yeah, the song is kind of indefensible, I think. But my first take on it was, first of all, that, when I listened to the song, I just thought, this song is total garbage. This is just like a horrible song.
Musically,
sonically speaking. I mean, it's poorly produced music. It's just lazy, uninteresting rap. If you, look at the lyrics, you can see there's like very, very little interesting content here. I mean, if you listen to it, although a lot of people, it's difficult to understand all the lyrics because it's Sichuanese and a lot of people don't speak that. But I mean, you can feel the cadence and flow of the music. Like, it just doesn't sound good at all. It's really grating on the ears. And I've heard the song a number of times since this has been spread around. And every time like those horns at the beginning start, I'm just like, oh God, it just sounds so bad. I mean, it's just a really bad sounding song. And not all of his music sounds bad. So, he has made some good music, but this is just a poor example of or a great example of just terrible music in general. So, I mean, for me, that makes it a little bit easier for me to discard this and just say like, well, this song just sucks, so who cares anyway?
I mean, that tells me that it was rushed, that he really wanted to get this song out when the iron was hot.
Yeah, or, it relies a lot more on its controversiality than it does in its quality. It's not a song which relies on being a good song that people listen to because it sounds great and makes you feel good. It's a song which is popular because it pushes a bunch of buttons, and that is exciting for a lot of people.
So, did you try to reach out to MC Shady and get a statement or?
No. So I didn't actually speak to him. I haven't talked to him in well over a year, but I did speak to some people who know him, and I kind of asked them about this. I said, hey, this Gua Laowai song, like, a lot of people are criticizing him and talking about this, and all the friends who I've spoken to, they've all said, yeah, that he's crazy. That song is like way over the line, and they feel not great about the content of this song. So they're not discarding it like I am because it sounds bad. They're not saying that he is misinterpreted. They're saying that the song is wrong. This should not have been written.
So I've been following a lot of the comments, both on my own YouTube upload and also on the Chinese side, just trying to gauge what people's response to the song is. On both sides, there's a lot of hateful racism. It's pretty bad. And on the Chinese side, there's a lot of people that just hate foreigners, share the same sentiment about foreigners. On the international side, there is, I think, a lot of people who they feel, how can this racist media be mainstream in China and be acceptable? How can that be allowed? But then in our own country, we would never allow that thing. They have trouble wrapping their head around it.
It seems like no matter where you are, there's racial tension somewhere. In the United States, last weekend was Charlottesville, Virginia, which is a horrible event, which everyone is completely obsessed with right now. race tension is the number one topic, number one concern that people have in the United States. In Europe, it's the same situation. We just had a couple immigrant attacks, one in Finland and one in Spain. And so those are fresh wounds. Everybody's upset about that. Immigration, highly contentious. And now in China, we have this anti-Laowai rap song. Expats in China all kind of feel, from what I understand, a little bit uncomfortable by this. It feels like just a lot of racial tension all around the world. So it is kind of sad to see that happen here too, because although China is not a diverse population, ethnically speaking, but it seems pretty harmonious. I mean, people are really friendly, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. I mean, when we walk down the street, we're more likely to be offered a job than attacked by a stranger. People are really hospitable and friendly. A lot of people go out of their way just to say hi, say hello, and just to try to make you feel welcome, or to try to make a connection or make a new friend. You know, a really common thing which Chinese people say all the time is like 交一个朋友, you know, which is not really literally the same thing as it means in English, but it means like, hey, let's be friends. You know, it's not like a real friendship, but what they're saying is like, hey, how you doing? I would like to connect with you. You know, you seem cool. Let's be friendly with each other, you know, which is kind of cool. If you're in the States, it kind of feels like a lot of the time people are just minding their own business. They don't want to associate with strangers. China's not really like that. And that's a really wonderful thing. So I hope that doesn't change. But this song is a really stark reminder that maybe it's not always like that.
Yeah, and to keep going with some of the comments, so I read a few from MC Shady himself. There was a guy who was asking him if he could make a remix because he really liked the song. And MC Shady said, this song was about one event and the event's over, and I don't want to perpetuate this song going forward.
That's interesting. Where did you say that?
I think it was on Weibo, or I don't know. My girlfriend read it to me.
Wow. Okay, so that's strong evidence for the not racist argument.
And then he went and, as far as I can tell, removed the song from every online property that they could. So it's off their YouTube. It's not on, I don't know, Yoku or QQ Music or wherever it was before. It's been pulled everywhere across the board.
Wow. That's a major development. And that is encouraging to hear. You know, I would imagine that Chinese censors very likely do not appreciate this type of song.
Yeah, but it was also pulled on YouTube, which is not controlled by Chinese censors. So I really think it was through his own choice that he pulled it down.
Was it pulled by the creator?
I believe so. So Charlie and I recorded this podcast a few hours ago, but since then there's been a pretty big update that I wanted to cut in and inform everybody. We've received this information through unofficial sources and a back channel, basically a WeChat group with a lot of Chengdu hip-hop artists in it, and from people who know Shady. The rap song Gua Laowai by Shady, it has been determined to be discriminatory against foreigners. The story is that several foreigners filed complaints through their local consulates, which went to the Ministry of Culture in Beijing, and the Ministry of Culture handed down the issue to Sichuan municipality to deal with. And since then, Shady has been called in, and it's looking like he may be banned from producing music in the future. So this is some extra fallout to this song that we would have discussed in the podcast if we had only known it a few hours ago.
Wow, because this also does seem like, I'm not sure if maybe YouTube would protect this, or I'm not sure what.
Well, there's so many other copies of it up on YouTube that have not been pulled.
Right, that's true.
So that leads me to believe that YouTube is not pulling it down themselves.
Right. Fascinating. So what do you think the effects of this are going to be? Are there going to be any effects of this, do you think? Do you think we'll be talking about this a month from now?
You know, somebody told me something once about China that's so true, is that China makes molehills out of mountains. So whenever there's a big thing in China, it lasts about 2.5 days, and then everyone just forgets it. Isn't that usually the case?
I can see an argument for that, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, so I think...
mean, in general, just news moves so quickly in China and also in the world, you know? I mean, a week ago, everyone in America was afraid of North Korea. Now everyone's afraid of Nazis. You know, next week it'll be something else. Time travels quickly these days.
Yeah, so I don't think this song is going to make a really lasting issue, and I really don't think that he's going to release another one. The only way I could see this popping back up is if maybe some other rappers or, some opportunists see the opportunity to create a viral video or song along these same lines by pushing these same buttons. Because now that door's been opened and everyone can see that you can get 1,000,000 views from making a song like this, I mean, if I was a rapper that wanted hits, I might do the same thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also kind of have been hoping that someone would make some kind of response to this.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but my Sichuan rap is not very good.
It crossed my mind too. I'm not even a rapper at all, but I feel like someone should do that and point out like all the irony here. This has been pointed out in a lot of YouTube comments, but his entire style is stolen from foreigners. His entire identity is stolen from foreigners. He has permanent ink on his body, which is just mimicking foreigners. Rap invented in America, Eminem American, his entire style totally American. The way he moves in the video, the way he's trying to look intimidating, he's wearing sunglasses, trying to look hard. Everything is just mimicking Westerners. The pit bull who's muzzled in the video, foreign dog, all the cars around him, foreign cars. Everything is from foreign culture, all of it.
When we edit this, we need to put a beat over that because I think you just wrote the response rap.
I mean, I wonder if he realizes the irony of this, because it's not lost on a lot of people.
Right.
Anything else to add on this before we wrap this podcast up? Nothing. That's once we get to 3 seconds pause.
Yeah, I think we covered it, man.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for translating the video and putting it onto YouTube. You're like a YouTube hit guy and Reddit hit guy. You got a number of popular posts on various social media sites, but this one really helped a lot of people understand the song. It certainly helped make it into a very contentious issue, but maybe it should be. Maybe this should be the type of thing that people are talking about and debating and discussing, even though it results in a lot of animosity on both sides. I feel like this might be the kind of thing that just needs to be processed and digested by the internet in order to better understand, what's happening in China and how people feel and how they're responding to it. And this also offers everybody a great opportunity to reflect on this song and why this kind of hatred is such a bad thing, and to be grateful for the hospitable environment which we enjoy in China.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't say, I said when I flew back to China that I had felt a little unwelcome because I had a rude driver and then I heard this song. But generally speaking, everyone here is really nice and welcoming.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you're interested in checking out other episodes of the podcast, you can find those on Apple Podcasts or on Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks very much.
嘿，学弟你在咋子嘞？
我每天都在抽，
哎，抽，每天都在抽。
咖啡你在爪子嘞？
嘿，我也在抽，每天都在抽。
我就是待到成都不走，每天椰子洗进口，你看不惯就算了，反正老子看淡了，没给我拿个赞到换到运就挨到加班，过一杆把火气划燃，从我这儿开始。